Islam and the Discoveries of Modern Science Part 5. Challenge number 1. Allusion to one of the yet-to-come, unseen facts of the universe whose future occurrence modern science later foretold. 12 Allah Exalted says, and, remember, the day when we shall roll up the heaven like a scroll rolled up for books. As we began the first creation, we shall repeat it. Qur'an, Al-Anbiya, 104+. Definitions: we roll up the heaven, we draw the heaven together, wrap it around itself. Rolled up, as if contracting, wrapping and closing, making a thing shrink upon itself after it was stretched out. A scroll, pages upon which something is written. For books, what is written on these pages? This noble verse speaks about the end of the universe, as a sign of the establishment of the hour which Allah, glorified and exalted, appointed in order to take mankind to account for their actions. And that the end of this universe will be by wrapping the heaven around itself, like the wrapping of spread out pages of text, rolled up together, constricting after being spread out. Just as the heavens and the earth were once attached as one object then separated, as he says in the noble verse, were joined together as one united piece, then we parted them. The scientific proof of which we clarified previously, after the discovery of the continuous stretching and spreading of the universe, as he says, with power did we construct the heaven. Verily, we are able to extend the vastness of space thereof, hence, the wording of the prevalent theory, the Big Bang theory. Indeed Allah, exalted, will recoil the heavens after being outstretched, as spread out pages of text are rolled up and constricted. As he says, we shall roll up the heaven like a scroll rolled up for books. And after modern science confirmed the phenomenon of the expansion of the universe, and the wording of the prevalent Big Bang theory, it was discovered that the expanding and spreading of the universe is in a direction opposite to gravity. For this reason, eventually the gravitational pull will overcome the outward pushing force, resulting in a massive explosion, causing the universe to begin to gather around itself and accumulate once again, such that the heaven recoils upon itself, as he exalted says. We shall roll up the heaven like a scroll rolled up for books. Hence, the wording of the Big Crunch theory, which says, eventually the universe will gather around itself and accumulate once again, as a result of the gravitational pull overcoming the outward pushing force happening due to the Big Bang that occurred at the beginning of the universe's formation, turning into a mass resembling the initial mass that exploded at the beginning of the universe's formation, as Allah, exalted, says. As we began the first creation, we shall repeat it. So how precise and eloquent are the expressions of the noble Qur'an? And what are they an indication of? Without a doubt, that in its entirety is an indication of the accuracy of the noble Qur'an, and that it is revelation from Allah exalted upon his trustworthy messenger, Muhammad. Salutations and peace of Allah be upon him. Challenge number 2. Allusion to one of the yet-to-come, unseen facts of the universe whose future occurrence modern science later foretold. 13 Allah, exalted, says, and the sun and moon will be joined together. Qur'an, Al-Qiyamah, 9. Definitions: joined together, drawn together. The noble Quranic verse speaks about one of the many signs of the hour, in which mankind will be brought to account by Allah, glorified and exalted, for their actions. One of these signs is what this noble Quranic verse informs us of, that the sun and moon will be joined and attached to one another. Indeed, modern science has discovered that the moon is withdrawing from the Earth at 3 centimeters a year, implying that the moon will eventually move outside the Earth's gravitational pull, moving into that of the sun, hence they're attaching to one another, as he exalted says, and the sun and moon will be joined together. And this has been scientifically confirmed. According to the Big Crunch theory, which we alluded to previously as one of the scientific proofs of the previous verse, with the reaccumulation of the universe around itself, the sun and the moon must be joined together and attached to one another, as the noble Qur'an informed us over 1,400 years ago, in his saying, and the sun and moon will be joined together. So, is indicated from the noble Qur'an's precedence in alluding to and informing us of these amazing scientific facts, over 1,400 years ago, that were discovered only after the technological advancement of our time. Challenge number 3. Allusion to one of the yet-to-come, unseen facts of the universe whose future occurrence modern science later foretold. 14 Allah's messenger, salutations and peace of Allah be upon him, said, the hour will not be established until the sun rises from the west. Bukhari. This noble prophetic hadith informs us that there will come a time when the sun will rise from the direction of the west, instead of what it is used to from rising from the east. And that will be at the nearing of the hour, when mankind will be taken to account by Allah, exalted, for their actions. Indeed, modern science has discovered a slowness and decrease in the speed of the Earth's rotation on its axis, less than a second every century, which implies that eventually the direction of its rotation will change and reverse, such that it rotates from east to west, hence the rising of the sun from the west, as the Prophet Muhammad said in the noble prophetic hadith. So, how precise are the expressions of the noble hadiths? And what are they an indication of? Land and mountains. 15 Alaya, exalted, says. And after that he spread the earth. Qur'an, An-Nazi'at, 30. The word dairy, derived from a word meaning level ground. Garden bed, is sometimes used to describe the place where the ostrich lays its eggs, such that the ostrich flattens out the ground beneath it with its feet, then lays its eggs, hence taking the oval shape of an egg. The term, he spread the earth means, he flattened it and spread it and gave it an oval shape. Hence, the complete meaning of the verse is that Alaya, exalted, flattened the earth and spread it, giving it an oval shape, in spite of its large size. Ostrich eggs, too, are large, as is explained in the meaning of Erie. Indeed, modern astronomers have discovered in recent times that the earth is not completely round, such that they found it indented along the equator, broad at the poles resembling a ball inflated from the middle, meaning, they found it oval-shaped, as Alaya, exalted, says, he spread the earth. This is a scientific fact discovered only recently, which the noble Qur'an alluded to over 1,400 years ago, at a time when no one had even the slightest knowledge of it. So what is this an indication of? 16 Alaya exalted says, and the earth which splits. Qur'an, At-Taraq, 12. Meaning, the earth, which is characterized by its fissures and cracks. The noble Quranic verse informs us that one of the characteristics of the earth upon which we live, is that it has large fissures and cracks, such that it can be described as such. Modern science has uncovered the truth of that which the noble Qur'an informed over 1,400 years ago, such that it has been established that a network of cracks stretches across the earth for thousands of kilometers, more than 64,000 kilometers. And this network of cracks completely penetrates the earth's rocky layer to a depth of 65 kilometers. This is a recently discovered scientific fact that the noble Qur'an alluded to over 1,400 years ago. So what is that an indication of? "17 Alaya, exalted, says, and you see the earth barren, but when we send down water, rain, on it, it is stirred to life, it swells and puts forth every lovely kind of growth." Qur'an, Al-Hajj, 5. Definitions: barren, dead, dry, devoid of plant life. It is stirred, it moves, it swells, it increases, grows and becomes inflated. The noble Quranic verse informs us that when rain descends from the sky upon the earth, the small grains that make up the soil are stirred and moved, as in Allah's saying, it is stirred. Thereafter they increase, as in Allah's saying, it swells. Modern science has uncovered the truth of that which the noble Qur'an informed us, the discovery of movement and swelling in the small grains of soil when rained upon. The explanation for that is that soil grains are made up of plates pressed together on top of each other. When it rains, different electrical charges are formed, keeping in mind the differences in the minerals therein. It is for this reason that the stirring between these plates occurs, as in Allah's saying, it is stirred, a result of water entering between these plates that make up the soil grains, hence, the swelling and increasing of the soil grains, as in Allah's saying it swells. From the benefits of the swelling of the soil grains is that the plant is supplied with its necessary water, from the water that entered upon its being stirred and subsequently stored between the plates. Also, after the stirring the plates become soft, facilitating the penetration of the plant stalks and its subsequent growth. So, what can be indicated from the noble Qur'an's precedence in its allusion to these amazing scientific facts, over 1,400 years ago, that have only just been discovered through the modern technology of this era? 18 Alaya exalted says, and you will see the mountains and think them solid, but they shall pass away as the passing away of the clouds. The work of Allah, who perfected all things, verily. He is well acquainted with what you do. Qur'an, An-Naml, 88. Definitions: and think them solid, you perceive that they are motionless and stagnant in their positions, yet they are actually passing by and moving like the passing and moving of the clouds. The noble verse is speaking about the mountains, and that they are like all the other creation of Allah, exalted, whose formation he perfected. The noble verse invites us to contemplate these mountains, whose creation and formation Allah perfected. That although they appear to the observer as if they are solid and motionless in their positions, the reality, as the noble verse informs us, is that they are moving similar to the movement of the clouds. When one observes the clouds, one initially perceives them to be motionless. However, upon closer scrutiny one would without a doubt notice their passing and movement. Such is the case with the mountains and their movement. Modern science has discovered that the mountains actually move in accordance with the Earth's movement, its confirmed rotation upon its axis as well as its revolution around the Sun. This special movement of the mountains, in accordance with the Earth's movement, is not perceived by the eye and therefore it is assumed that they are motionless. Rather, an examining and contemplating observer would realize it, through the use of modern scientific methods which affirm that and leave no room for denying it, as in Allah's saying, "And you will see the mountains and think them solid, but they shall pass away as the passing away of the clouds." Hence, the noble Quranic verse has actually alluded to two amazing scientific facts. A. The movement of the mountains, in accordance with the Earth's movement. B. The movement of the Earth, since the mountains are the Earth's pegs, and would not move if not for the movement of the Earth, from the magnificence of the noble Qur'an's wisdom and eloquence. The noble Qur'an took into account the primitive mindset it was addressing over 1,400 years ago, evident in his saying, "But they shall pass away as the passing away of the clouds," subtly alluding to the movement of the mountains as well as the movement of the Earth. Careful not to disturb the primitive mindset that had not even the slightest knowledge of such scientific facts. We also find that the noble Qur'an, through his saying, "The work of Allah, who perfected all things," invites us to contemplate the work of Allah, exalted in his magnificent perfection of everything he created and formed, and this will not occur in the hereafter, as the hereafter is the place of accounting and recompense. Rather, it should take place in this world through science and what modern scientific methods have achieved. So, how magnificent, wise and eloquent is the noble Qur'an. 19 Allah, exalted, says, "And he has affixed into the earth mountains standing firm, lest it should shake with you." Qur'an, An-Nahl, 15. Definitions: mountains standing firm, steady mountains. Lest it should shake with you, so as not to lean or move about. 20 Allah, exalted, says, "Have we not made the earth as a bed? And the mountains as pegs?" Qur'an, An-Naba, 6-7. Definitions: pegs, as pegs for the earth, to preserve its balance. The first noble Quranic verse informs us of the magnificence of Allah's favors upon us, and that Allah created the earth and created firm mountains on it, in order to steady the earth and keep it from rocking and moving about, as in his saying, "Lest it should shake with you." In other words, the noble verse alludes to the fact that if not for these firm mountains, the earth would not be settled in the way we observe today, and it would rock and move about. And such is only due to Allah's favor upon us. The second noble Quranic verse informs us of a detailed description of these firm, steady mountains that Allah has made in order to steady the earth and keep it from rocking and moving about. That one of their characteristics is that their underground roots are larger than the part that we see above the ground, in order to stabilize the earth and keep it from rocking and moving about. Acting as pegs, as he says, and the mountains as pegs, and as is well known, when a peg is thrust into the ground to stabilize something, the part above the ground is a whole lot less than the part which was thrust into the ground. Modern science has uncovered the truth of those scientific facts which the noble Qur'an has alluded to and informed us over 1,400 years ago, of which no one had even the slightest knowledge. Such that the following discoveries were made. A. That the mountain's deepest roots within the rocky layer of the earth are about 10 to 15 times more than the part above the ground, just as the noble Qur'an alluded to in his saying, "And the mountains as pegs?" The underground part of a peg is always significantly more than the part about the earth. B. That mountains work to protect the earth's balance and stability and order upon its rotational axis, and to lessen its trembling and reeling, hence, preventing it from rocking and moving about. Just as the noble Qur'an spoke about in his saying, "Lest it should shake with you." In other words, so that it doesn't rock or move about. So, what is indicated by the precedence of the noble Qur'an in its allusion to these amazing scientific facts over 1400 years ago, which were only discovered after the technological advancement of our present era?